You're the human proximity principle. You really are. And I know you don't know what that is, but I've got a copy of it. This is a number one best-selling book that I wrote several years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's what the proximity principle says. Okay. And I want you to comment on it. In order to do what you want to do, fill in the blank, whatever that is. In order to do what you want to do, you got to be around people that are doing it and in places where it is happening. Add to it, try to debunk it. I don't care.
People will take you places that money can't.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it feels like you have you've monetized this idea, right, of getting around successful people. Yeah. What I want to go back to is when you made the pivot from you guys giving out advice to I'm going to start just hunting down successful people and stick a mic in their face and see what they give us. How early on did you realize you were getting a master class? You weren't just creating good content.
This is a great point, and I think there's a beautiful lesson to be made here, though, because even for those first couple of years that we were doing the interviews, we weren't taking action on a lot of the stuff that we were learning, and it goes back to this saying. I don't want to butcher it, so give me a second. Most people are addicted to education but allergic to execution.
That is absolutely gospel truth. Amen. I'm going to do an altar call, and we need to baptize people in that truth.
Listen. I'm telling you, it's. And a lot of the problem is people are just, constantly consuming all this like hyper motivational content, which is great, but it's like, okay, like let's do stuff. And I'll give you another one right here. Information can change situations, but only through implementation. And so that's the thing. And like, I think what those people that go to conferences, I think what ends up happening is there's just so much all over. And it's like, what I've seen is the best format if you're going to a mastermind, and the most successful people that I've met that go to those types of events or those high ticket masterminds, it's like you go and you just need like one or two things to go bring back into the business, to go test, to go implement. And I think that's what it is. I think it's like one thing little bit every day, and then double down, double down, bring the people in that you need. And then, so I think that's important.
Get out on the field.
Yeah.
The pregame locker room hype, and then when the coach calls you don't want to run in the game, that's the problem. Love that. Okay, so I want to break the proximity principle down, right? So there's three: the people, the places, and then practices, right? So I want to talk about some people in your life. So growing up, who were some people who influenced you?
Yeah, I had the most incredible mom and dad that I think any young kid could have been blessed to kind of grow up with. Neither one of them were entrepreneurial by any means. What I got from my dad was that, my dad went to West Point. He had an incredible career in the United States Army. He was the garrison commander. If you don't know what that means, it's pretty much like the mayor of the largest overseas military base in the entire world in Camp Humphreys, South Korea. And so from 6 to 10, a lot of people don't know this, I lived in South Korea. And what that did to me at an early age was I was like watching my dad speak in front of thousands of people on base. I was watching him meet heads of states of all these, different countries and top, military people. It exposed me at like an early age to like, wow, like this is kind of like how the world works. And that's a lot different. I feel like from that kid that is in their small hometown, goes through the motions every day. And I
realized how big the world actually is.
Yes. And you can only grow to what you're exposed to. Like I was just having this conversation with Robert Herjavec, and he was talking about how he didn't know up until he was 27 that somebody could actually own a plane. He didn't know until he was, and so I think there's a lot of importance about that. Like you have to go and see that like there's this abundance that's possible, and that people do own it, and that people can create it for themselves ultimately. But so I got to go back to my dad. My dad is the most incredible man that I've ever met. He's the most like honorable, has the greatest integrity of anybody that I've ever met. I mean, as little as like when I remember like doing like homework in school, he would like if I was like trying to use like other resources that I wasn't supposed to, he would kind of get on me about that. And he talked about how like when he was at West Point, he'd be in like a test, and he could, if he wanted to, cheat and see somebody's paper off to the side and get their answers, but he just take the F, He's like, you didn't prepare for it, just take the F. And so I got that from him, and that was very important. The three of us, my brother, my brother Jack, my partner Josh, we met actually we were in the same Boy Scout troop. That's where we met our other partner. We were in Boy Scouts. We all became Eagle Scouts together. And our scoutmaster was this like very kind of strict, regimented Marine guy. But he just instilled a lot of like life lessons in us of just kind of like discipline. It's not going to be like handed to you, that you have to kind of go out there and, nobody's going to come save you. You have to, it's going to be you that has to kind of, put that work in and do it yourself. And then, so I would say those are probably two of the most fundamental people that had like a really lasting impact on me, not from an entrepreneurial. And then the third one is without a doubt, my brother Jack, because if it wasn't for him.
How much older is he than you?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. If it wasn't for him going to the University of Texas, I would be in the military right now. 99% chance. I would have gone to West Point. I thought my entire life growing up that I was going to go to the military academy like my dad. But when I visited him in Austin, when he was at UT and seeing like he was making great money, he was getting mentored from this, billionaire CEO, like my mind just flipped. Just like I want to go to Austin. I want to go do that. So if it wasn't for him, I'd be rucking up overseas right now.
That's right. That's right. You can't bring your best if you're running on empty. That's why sleep matters. And it starts with the right mattress. I love my avocado green mattress because it's built for real rest. Firm, medium, plush, whatever you need, their 2-minute quiz matches you with the right fit. So if you want to show up sharper tomorrow or just get your guest room ready for the holidays, go to avocadogreenmattress.com/Ken. Their Black Friday sale runs all of November, and with the code KEN50, you save an extra $50 on top of 20% off site-wide. Avocado, dream of better. Do you recall anything specific, or was it more of a cultural thing in your home? Or did it exist at all? But did you ever feel a sense of, hey, you guys, you need to go be world changers? Was there anything that big or that overt?
One thing that I feel like my mom I just always heard her say when we were kind of growing up was like this concept of like see, feel, believe, achieve. See, feel, believe, achieve. Like, I think that's one thing that she kind of reiterated over and over. So like, I feel like I kind of always had that like sense of like self-belief and never really ever doubted ourselves. But in terms of, to be completely honest, I think that they would have been at the time a lot happier had Jack not left corporate America and gone full time on this thing.
Sure.
We had to kind of fight some of those battles in our household.
That's scary to mom and dad.
It is scary. And this is a very important lesson as well, is that sometimes the closest people to you, they a good chance they want what's safest for you.
Yes.
But they don't know what's ultimately going to be best for you.
I got to jump in. It's absolutely right. I'm so glad you said this to our younger audience. It's really important that what feels like them protecting us from them, like parents, they feel like, hey, we're protecting you, got our arms around you, can actually be holding you back. They just don't see it that way. Their heart's in the absolute right place. There's no ill intent here, but that is so true with a lot of young people who feel this urge. Not everybody's like that, but it just strikes me that you, for certain, certainly Jack, you guys had a little bit, there's something out there you guys were intrigued by.
Yeah, and we were just so consistent, and I think that was like what enabled us just to kind of keep on growing and building. And then before we knew it, it turned into something way bigger than we thought it was, and just a massive opportunity. But I think this concept of, even fast forward to now, like building the businesses, like before we really started to, monetize. I mean, one thing we always had down was attention. But I talk about this a lot with them and advise this to other people now as well, is that I can recall when before we started any businesses and we had hundreds of thousands of followers with incredible engagement, great views, I could go to 10 different very successful internet marketers or people that are, running marketing agencies, whatever it may be, or just in the internet space. They don't necessarily have to be media businesses, but in that space. And I could tell them about, they could know our content well. And I could talk to 10 people, hey, how would you monetize this? And everybody would tell you something differently. And I think that with that, it's like, you got to be really, really careful about who you kind of like listen to and decide not to. Because I look back at like kind of the way that we did it, and I think that it was really strategic, even though it was like longer. It's not always a bad thing, because you built the brand, you built the trust, and then when you go to launch a product or service, then it's like, hey, you got people that are receptive and they want this. We're playing the Will Smith interview, and if that video goes on a little bit further, he talks about how like you get to a certain point as well where it's like, he referred to a moment where he was going through something in his life, and he called, I don't remember who it was. It was Spike Lee or it was somebody else in Quincy Jones. Yeah, he talks. It was Quincy Jones that he called up and was like trying to ask him for advice. And Quincy goes to me, he goes, Will, I don't got anything for you. I wouldn't have done none of this shit you didn't. Look at where you ended up. You know, so I think that there's like you got to be really, really careful about the people that you end up listening to.
I agree with that. Yeah, and it's kind of like little kids, on Halloween, the old school pumpkin thing. And as parents, the kids come home and they dump it all out on the table, and we go through it, we check it, right? We want to make sure there's nothing crazy in there, and the kids are kind of going, here's my favorites. That's how I tell people to treat feedback. Get a lot of it, but dump it out on the table and decide what you think you need to keep.
Just like a prime example is Reid Hoffman.
Yeah.
Founder of LinkedIn. I interviewed him and I asked him, like, after they exited PayPal for a couple $1 billion, like, did you have anybody that told you like you had like a bad idea with LinkedIn? And he said more than 2/3 of his smart friends told him LinkedIn would be a complete failure.
Yeah.
And I go, you didn't listen to them? And he goes, no, you do. You listen to what everybody has to say, but you go find like the one thing that they don't kind of. And so there's a lot of truth to that right there.
So good. All right, let's do this. Jack, come in here. This is great. I'm calling an audible, but I'm going to have him come around here, and we can capture all this. This is fun. This will be a quick 2-part question. So, Jack, thanks for coming in here. This is fun. So, you're the older brother.
Yes, sir.
How many years older?
I'm 2 years older.
2 years older. You inspired him to come to Austin, to go to the University of Texas. Fantastic stuff. Family business. Not everybody does it well. And I love that this is a family business. 2 bros. You got the partner. I get that. Question for both of you. I don't care who goes first. What is a quality you most admire about each other?
We interviewed a guy like on the street one time, and he said, you got to have that thing called the fire in the belly. Well, this kid's got it. Yeah. And we would not be where we're at today if it wasn't for his persistence and his drive to just be relentless, to go get some of the most amazing content in the world to help not only the younger generation, but everybody out there that's trying to, that maybe they're stuck and they need to, find that new path in life. But we're just trying to create amazing content. It wouldn't be possible without his persistence and courageousness to go out and do that.
Love that. Favorite quality about Jack?
A lot of siblings, I feel like, especially when there's like a younger brother, an older brother, or, sisters, brothers, whatever it may be, a lot of younger brothers, I feel like a lot of older brothers, especially like when they have their own friend group, they treat that younger brother like absolute shit, and they like seclude them. They're not nice to them. At every step of the way in our lives, when we were in South Korea, when we were back in the States, when we were in Austin, he always included me with his friends. Always did that. And even in business now with, the 20 plus employees, like, he's just always been incredibly inclusive of everybody else. And in particular with me, is, as I acknowledge that about him and admire that, is that I've seen it firsthand, even with like friends that we had of other brother dynamics, and they just never really had what we had, being that we always embraced one another. And I think that's a big reason why, being in business together, it's been very powerful, because we always say that it's us against the world,
Love that. All right, I want to highlight this, not to, shed negative light, but for our audience to learn here. What is a difficult, not about each other, but what is something that you guys have found is a challenge and we have to overcome this about working with your brother?
Well, here's the thing, is the beautiful thing about being in business with family and then also very close friends is that you have that factor that a lot of businesses fail because of like lack of trust, or a business partner doing something shady behind one another's back. And you don't ever have to worry about that here. Not that I know of. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. But you don't have to worry about that. Like, that trust factor's there. There's a certain moral standard that we all kind of hold one another to, and the values are set in place. Where I think that it doesn't work, and again, maybe you kind of have an interesting perspective on this that I don't, where I think it doesn't work in most cases, but I think that we've been able to make it work, is I feel like familiarity breeds content. So when you are like with your close friends and family, that familiarity brings content, comfort. None of the three of us, we are not yes men. We will argue, we will butt heads, and we will like come to a conclusion and a decision, and it will not always be pretty. But you have to, if you're going to go into business with friends and family, you cannot be yes men. And I think that's one of the reasons why it has worked out very well, because we didn't have anybody that was like, you know, if there was a disagreement, if people didn't agree, we weren't just going to be like, oh no, you're right. No. We would go at it. And the nice thing about having 3 partners is you kind of have that 2-to-1 split oftentimes. So that way it's like, okay, if 2 people are leaning towards this thing, then it's like that person that's not in the majority kind of has to go on to the other side.
Well, absolutely. Because I mean, some people would be like, oh, are you know, your brothers, do you agree all the time? Or you always button heads? And it's like, when we go into business, we're business partners.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we're blood, but at the end of the day, like, I'm sitting at the table because I have my own convictions on how we should do things. He's sitting at the table because he has convictions. And that's when you're building a company, you don't want to hire everybody that's just going to say yes to what you want to do. You need to bring people to the table that are going to challenge what you say, because you want a diversity of thought. And that's how you create an amazing company, because you have all the different ways of how this could potentially work. The other thing too is, I think a lot of people that work with family, ego gets in the way. And so James is a phenomenal content creator. Josh and I came from a business background. That was our first venture that we got into. He started in content. And so him being the face of the channel, he's the face that everybody sees. Most family members would have an ego about it and be like, oh, but I want to be in the spotlight. I want to be the face. But it's like, no, like, our business works because he's great at content. And if that means he gets a lot of the attention because of the amazing interviews he does, then he deserves it. Josh and I will get our time because of the incredible company that we built on the back end. And so you can be a star in your own life, but you can't let ego get in the way of you building something phenomenal.
Hey, if you enjoyed this highlight, click here for the full conversation.